Hi everybody, for part B of my Industry of One project, I decided to make a digital watch. This is my journey. A few weeks ago I sat down and watched a movie called In Time, which was recommended to me by a friend. He said that its premise was a unique use of time, which sounded very interesting. In the movie, everybody has a clock on their arm. When they turn 25, they are given 1 year, which is the currency in the world. The clock counts down, and when it reaches 0, you die. Watching this, I had the idea that if I had a clock on my arm which counted down to my death, I'd be more motivated and perhaps use my time more wisely. From this, I decided to create a watch which does just that. It counts down to one's death. One sets the time when they first use the watch, and I decided that my birthday at age 90 was a good time to count down to. To make it a bit more usable in daily life, it would also need to display current time. This required something which could display 18 characters wide by 2 high. In the movie, months are left out and only weeks and days are used. This makes things easier because the watch doesn't need to have a calendar programmed into it. Initially, I thought that the easiest way to make a watch with such a wide display would be to use a mobile phone. That way, a simple app could be written to run the clock. After a few days of looking around on the internet for a suitable phone, I found the HTC ChaCha. It is a landscape screen, and after watching a few YouTube disassembly videos, it could easily be pulled apart and repackaged into a watch. The ChaCha is about $180 as well, which is a lot for a normal watch, but not much for a phone. In the end, I decided it was a bit too chunky for a watch, as you can see here with my Illustrator sketch. Next, I decided that I could build a watch just using an LCD screen and an Arduino. Unfortunately, I found it very difficult to find a 20 by 2 character LCD screen. They are only readily available in 16 by 2. I could have simply used 2 digits for the year display, but I didn't want to compromise. The LCD screens were also a bit big, at 87mm wide and 25mm thick. This was far too big for a watch, as I also needed to fit an Arduino and a battery. LCDs also use a backlight, which draws a lot of power, and they are not very daylight readable, which is not good for a watch. My next step was, how about OLED? OLED is small, doesn't need a backlight, and is daylight readable. Perfect for a watch. I tried to find 20 by 2 character OLED panels, but they were a similar size to the LCD screens and only came in green or yellow text, and I really wanted white. Many hours of internet research followed, and then I stumbled upon Adafruit Industries, which make a 128 by 64 pixel resolution OLED screen, which is 0.96 of an inch diagonally. This was a bit small and not wide enough for my 18 characters, so I decided to use 2 side by side. Now that I had a display, the next thing was to find a small Arduino. The smallest Arduino is called an Arduino Stamp. As its name suggests, it is about the size of a stamp, the perfect size to fit inside a watch. Next, I needed a battery. It needed to have a high energy density, as the 2 screens draw a maximum of 20 mAh each, and the Arduino draws 5 mAh. I selected a 110 mAh lithium polymer battery, which is about the size of an Arduino. At maximum draw, this only gives me 2 hours of use, but I'm not planning to use all the pixels of the display at once, so it should use much less power and hopefully last a lot longer. I then measured all the components and made a drawing in Illustrator with measurements and correct proportions. The display board, which controls the OLED screen, has holes for mounting it, which I decided I would cut off with the Dremel tool, as they were not necessary and made the board too large. I also purchased a 440 mAh battery, which was a little larger than the 110, and a lithium polymer fuel gauge board, which would tell the Arduino how much charge was left in the battery. Both of these I didn't end up using, as they were going to make the watch too large and chunky. Hopefully I can include them in the next prototype when I have a custom designed PCB. Next came designing the watch. For this I brainstormed some existing products to give me inspiration. Then in Illustrator I sketched some simple shapes with the correct proportions. This is the shape that I came up with. Here is some SolidWorks renderings showing the watch from various angles and in different colours. Unfortunately, I've received my OLED screens but none of the rest of my electronics or Shapeways prints.